This yard is disgusting. I can smell it from my porch.
I cannot even walk without this frame.
Then sell before it ruins us.
You are shaming a woman who can barely stand.
I am protecting this street.
Then start by helping her.
The grass looked wild, but the real story was an old woman trapped behind a yard her body could no longer fight. Before we begin, let me know where you are watching from. It is always special to see how many places one story can reach. Mrs. Edith's small house sat at the end of a quiet street, but lately people no longer noticed the white curtains or the old porch light she kept on every night. They noticed the yard. The grass had grown thick around the walkway, weeds covered the edges of the driveway, and dry leaves gathered under the porch steps. To her neighbor, Mrs. Keller, it looked disgusting. She said it loudly enough for anyone outside to hear. She complained that the yard made the street look dirty, that bugs would come from it, that no decent person should let a home look like that. But Edith was not a careless woman. She was 84 years old, living alone, and she could not take 3 steps without leaning on a metal walking frame. 6 months earlier, she had fallen while trying to carry a small bag of trash to the curb. The fall cracked her hip, damaged her confidence, and changed the way she moved through the world. Before that, Edith had kept her yard neat for decades. She swept the porch every morning, trimmed the flower bed, and watered the small line of bushes her husband planted before he died. After the fall, everything became slower. Getting from her chair to the kitchen took effort. Getting from the door to the mailbox felt dangerous. Pulling out a mower was impossible. Her money was no better than her strength. Her small retirement check went to pain medicine, groceries, physical therapy rides, and the electric bill. She called a lawn company once, but when she heard the price, she simply said thank you and hung up before they could hear her cry. Mrs. Keller never asked about any of that. One afternoon, she marched across the sidewalk while Edith stood near the porch, both hands shaking on her walking frame. Mrs. Keller said the yard was disgusting and she could smell it from her porch. Edith tried to stand taller and said she could not even walk without the frame. Mrs. Keller snapped that Edith should sell before the house ruined the neighborhood. That was when Mason, a lawn guy driving home from another job, slowed down. He saw the old woman's thin arms, the walking frame, and the neighbor pointing at the yard like it was something shameful. Mason stepped out and told Mrs. Keller she was shaming a woman who could barely stand. Mrs. Keller said she was protecting the street. Mason said then she should start by helping her. Edith immediately whispered that she could not pay him. Mason told her he had not stopped for money. He had stopped because nobody should be trapped inside their own home by grass. He unloaded his mower, rake, trimmer, and bags. First, he cleared the walkway, because Edith needed a safe path more than she needed a pretty lawn. Then he cut the grass away from the porch, trimmed the driveway edge, and cleared the leaves from the steps. As the yard opened, the house began to look alive again. Near the front window, Mason found a small stone bird bath almost buried in weeds. Edith began to cry when she saw it. She said her husband had placed it there so she could watch birds from her chair after he got too sick to take her walking. Since her fall, she had not been able to reach it. Mason cleared around it by hand and set it upright. Mrs. Keller, still standing nearby, stopped speaking. The thing she had called disgusting was not just weeds. It was an old woman's life slowly disappearing under work she could no longer do. By sunset, the path was clear, the porch was safe, and the bird bath stood in the light again. Mrs. Keller quietly picked up one bag of leaves and carried it to the curb. Edith looked at her and said, "You hated my yard before you ever asked why it looked this way." Mrs. Keller lowered her eyes. For once, she had no sharp answer left. A messy yard can hide pain, fear, and a person too proud to ask for help. If this story made you think before judging, leave a comment with the word gentle.